right. So speaking of distinctive, let's move on to number 16. This band, Depeche Mode. I don't know. This is the aforementioned Master and
Here we
Servant.
go.
Depeche Mode. All right. Were you full on at this time? Like this is I'm all in on Depeche Mode, or did it take some more convincing?
No, I was. I mean, I was all in from Speak and Spell, so I was buying everything and anything they did. I know you put it's a lot. Let's just move on. Are you? I'm guessing that because it's interesting listening to these the two Depeche Mode tracks that are in this list, because the sound of them, which was driven by Alan Wilder, the thing we've got to never underestimate is what Alan Wilder did for that band during his time with it. And all those samples and all those sounds and all that kind of sound design, was a lot of it was him. And actually, when you listen back, it was, it's funny, real mixed emotions about it, because I remember at the time really loving listening to what they were putting out, and me and friends were listening to stuff like Daff and some of those other mad kind of metal clanging angle grinder on stage, Eine Stunde Neuse, German named long, new artists. So, and this was the kind of pop version of that. This was all nicely put into 3 minutes for pop audiences, wasn't it? But is it their best output? No, I don't think so. I think they're great, these tracks, and I love them because they evoke, and all this, like anything, you can listen to what is potentially a really awful, tragic piece of production or music, but it doesn't matter because at the time you were in your salad days and it meant something. With this as well, some of the kind of awful vocals and sounds and stuff, you go, if this was put out now, people go, the fuck is that song? Wouldn't they? It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's like, what are they doing? They're trying to sound like fucking Queen,
You make it sound like Queen. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Maybe it was.
The video. I can't.
It was like
can't not
salad. They're throwing everything in. Here, I've got an idea. Great. Throw it in. Here's another. What if we do this? What if we put this little weird sound in? Great. Throw it in there. Okay, let's mix it up and see what we got.
And also, don't forget, we were in an era in '84. Sampling synthesizers were now becoming available to everybody and anybody, because a lot of this stuff was done on, I think it was on like the emulator and the Emacs. A company called Emu, I think it was an Australian synth company, were creating synth samplers that people could afford. I think I'm getting this right, because prior to that, you had kind of Trevor Horn and people who had lots of money buying the Fairlight, but this stuff was a bit more, you could lift it onto a stage and tour with it. And a few years ago, Alan Wilder sold his old emulator samplers with all these samples from these songs on the discs, so that you could sit at home and, down, 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 get with all the sounds off the tracks. So that, as you rightly say, Dave, they were obviously throwing things at walls and recording it and putting it into the synth and playing it back in the same way that we will hear when we get to one of the other tracks on here, the next one, the amount of sampling and the amount of re-triggered samples in the track is beyond belief. But yeah, the couple of things I was going to say about this was, it's off Some Great Reward, isn't it? And there's two tracks on Some Great Reward which I really love. One is It Doesn't Matter, and one's Somebody. I think they're great. And I think Martin Gore doesn't get credit for, I know he writes his love songs are incredibly hackneyed and slushy, really. And when they're underpinned with synths, nobody really took them seriously at the time, because if you're playing a synth, you're not a serious musician, But actually, when you strip them back and things like It Doesn't Matter and Somebody, when you play them on the guitar or the piano alone, they're great. They're really lovely little songs. Some of the lyrics are a bit ropey, but they're really good. They're little hidden gems on something like Some Great Reward, which really was that kind of, bombastic, they're all wearing bondage gear and smashing shit up to record it, to put it into the tracks.
Those songs balance the album nicely. It gives it a nice, a well-rounded feel.
Absolutely.
I love that album. You can say what you will, but that's
And I wrote here that
It's
there
up
was a
there.
slavery whip mix of Master and Servant, which was the longest 12-inch Depeche Mode song at the time, it said. And I was just saying, as we touched on earlier, back when extended mixes were a thing, you know, because they'd finish the single and then they'd say to the engineer or whoever it was, you know, make a longer version. So they'd have to kind of go back to the tapes and chop it up and do those. But I think Depeche Mode were always into having people remix, because I know a good friend of mine, Stuart, who is a songwriter out in LA now and has been for quite a few years. He ended up being on the kind of list of people that would get Depeche Mode tracks to remix, and I think they've always been aware of the benefit of giving the original out to other people to turn it into versions that might appeal to the others, you know, to the other audiences they're not necessarily going to appeal to from the get-go.
Do they appeal to you? Did you run out and buy the extended
I always
mix?
bought, like I say, I always bought the 12-inch if I could, because then I knew it was going to last, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 minutes instead of just the 3, so you get more of a bang for your buck. And also, don't forget, the 12-inch vinyl will be better quality than the 7-inch, because of course it was spinning quicker. So you got a 12-inch album running at 45 instead of running at 33. So better quality, and the grooves were wider. So the needle wasn't being squeezed so tightly to make the audio. So the whole notion of a 12-inch single was always a bit louder, a bit brighter, just better sound.